brother and sister. My name is Alauddin, or in French, je m'appelle Aladdin, Alauddin Aladdin. I'm one of the owners of Hashimi Hotel. We're very sorry we are sold out, fully booked. We'd love to have you at your second home in Jerusalem, which is, we consider him first home for him in Jerusalem. Also, I do have a master's degree in Jerusalem studies, which is a lot of research on Jerusalem history, Jerusalem virtue of Jerusalem, Jerusalem from Muslim perspective, Jewish perspective, and Christian perspective. Also, when I give lecture about Jerusalem, especially speak about Jerusalem for the brothers and sisters, Muslim brother and sister, we usually speak about Jerusalem as the virtue of Jerusalem, such as to look at Jerusalem as what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us about and viewed it. But sometimes I do like to give an introduction to Jerusalem, for you to look at Jerusalem, especially you made the trip. Some of you, this is the first time, others the second or third, others 100 times, alhamdulillah. But for you to understand why you made this trip and how you decided to come here. Why to come to Jerusalem? You could have went to any other place for a vacation or to enjoy your time, or you could have went again to Umrah or Mecca. Why is Jerusalem, especially around this time? Before 1948, we did not have many people visiting Jerusalem from abroad, but since 1948 till now, alhamdulillah, numbers are increased. A lot of Muslims are coming from Europe, from South Africa, from Mauritius, from all over the world to visit Jerusalem. So let me start, give you a short introduction to Jerusalem to understand and to know the names. And then I will try to put, it's a lot of information. If you want to speak about Jerusalem, it will take us days and days, months, year, because there are a lot mentioned, especially for Muslims, about Jerusalem. Yet other nations who lived in Jerusalem, they have thousands of books about Jerusalem. And especially when we talk about the three monotheistic religion and who lived in Jerusalem until our day. So let me start with the name of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, one of the first names was called Salem. The city, exactly, when we speak about Jerusalem, is the city within the wall of 3,750 meters, which is the size of the old city itself, 1 kilometer, 1 square kilometer. This is the size of Jerusalem. It sits on 4 foothills. Long time ago, they used to call them mountains. First mountain, Mount of Moriah, where Masjid al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. The second mountain is the mountain behind him, Mountain Bazita, or foothill of Bazita, or Bazika. The third one, which is the mountain where the Sepulchre Church, they call it the Holy Sepulchre Church. According to Christian, this is where the tomb of Jesus or the crucifixion took place. They call it Mount of Gelgala, or in Arabic we call it Akara, or Akara. Then the fourth mountain is Mount of Zion. Zion is a Canaanite word. It means the well-protected castle. That's the name of Zion. So Jerusalem itself, if you go to the Mount of Olive and you look at Jerusalem, of course now it is crowded with buildings and houses, but before it was empty. When the people of Canaanites came and lived on the Mount of Moriah, the first wall of the old city, it was just around the 144 dunam of Masjid al-Aqsa, which is called Yabus. Another name for Jerusalem, Yabus, or Yabus, different pronunciation. So the Canaanites, when they lived, of course, they did not follow any religion. They were atheists. So when they came to Jerusalem, they were looking for water. They found the water underneath, which is going the slope from the foot of Moriah, mountain foot of Moriah, down to Silwan, which is the Jewish, they call it city, the David city, or the city of David. They found water, they put their tent, and they built a small wall around the Mount Moriah, and they lived there. They called it Yabus. And later on, a second name, Jerusalem took Or Salim. Later on, Or Shalem, Or Shalim. Later on, it took another name, which is the King Sadiq. King Sadiq, he was on Tawheed, who followed the path of Adam alayhi salam. And the history shows that when Abraham alayhi salam, he was asked by Allah to leave Ashur, which is from Iraq, with Lut, they came walking towards Philistine, or Jerusalem, or the Holy Land, or Baytul Maqdis. So when he walked, he came, King Sadiq asked him, he invited him to pray. Let me stop here and then just connect the dots for you. King Sadiq, Canaanite, we're talking about 3,000 years before Jesus alayhi salam, before Isa alayhi salam. Well, there was no Masjid al-Aqsa. So how come would a king invite someone to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa? And Masjid al-Aqsa did not exist. In fact, Masjid al-Aqsa did exist because Abu Dharr, a companion of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, he asked Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, what was the first house to be erected on earth to worship Allah? First house to be built to worship Allah. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam replied, he said, Al-Kaaba. The first house, Al-Kaaba. And then the companion asked Abu Dharr, he asked, and what was the second house? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam replied, Masjid al-Aqsa. And the companion asked, what was the time between those two houses? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said 40 years. So that most authenticated narration says that Adam alayhi salam built Masjid al-Kaaba. So 40 years after that, he built Masjid al-Aqsa. So the second house, that's what they called in Islam the first Qibla, and the second house. And the third, to do Shadd al-Rihal, which is as the hadith of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, لا تشد الرحال إلا لثلاث, Al-Kaaba, Al-Medina, and Masjid al-Aqsa. So this is the second house to be built. So Masjid al-Aqsa, by then, it had a different name. It was called, among the rest of the world, the Holy House. Al-Bayt al-Muqaddas. In Arabic also, Bayt al-Muqaddas. But when we went back farther, because we were able to look at Makhtuta, it's a written document by people who witnessed the event. There was something called Aqsa. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named it in the Quran, Surah Al-Isra, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. Aqsa means, it came from fi'l, we call it qas or qasi or qas, means that the far, the distance. So Masjid al-Aqsa, it is the distance house or mosque from Kaaba. So also they call it Aqsa. But it is known among other religions, the holy house. Now, Masjid al-Aqsa, since it was Ibrahim alayhi salam visited Masjid al-Aqsa and prayed in Masjid al-Aqsa, and later on, as Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, this is very important, this is the core of your trip, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, when my brother Sulaiman, Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, finished building Masjid al-Aqsa, finished building the holy house, the Jewish, they call it Beit HaMikdash, Al-Bayt al-Muqaddas. When he finished, he asked Allah for three things. Allah granted him two of his requests, and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the third request was for anyone, any mu'min, to travel and to come and pray in Masjid al-Aqsa for the sake of Allah. In Arabic, لا ينهزه عن ذلك شيء, for the sake of Allah only. He will go back home as a newborn person. This is a huge ajr. Scholars, they stopped and they said, this is a huge ajr. This is, you know, when you enter a market, you have a hadith where if you say it as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you get 1,000,000 hasana, 1 million in one to enter, just to enter a market. If you say this, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير, you get 1,000,000. Imagine, just immediately 1,000,000 hasana. Masjid al-Aqsa is as equal as Hajj. To pray in Masjid al-Aqsa. And this hadith was narrated by companions that even in the later age that was corrected and Sahahahu al-Albani. Now, since Masjid al-Aqsa has so much ajr, and people of Israel, as they say, which is, when we say people of Israel, I don't want you to be confused with Zionists. People of Israel, your brother and sister who were on the right path, followed the message of Islam. Islam is not your religion, it is Adam's religion. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَمَا كَانَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ مُسْلِمًا حَنِيفًا. Muslim, from the past, from the old age, means total submission to one God. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he submitted, total submission to one God, Musliman Hanifa. So people of Israel who followed the path, they were So people of Israel who followed that path, they are your brother and sister in Islam. Sulaiman alayhi salam, he came from the people of Israel who built Masjid al-Aqsa. Now Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam spoke a lot about Masjid al-Aqsa. He said in so many different hadiths, it is the land of resurrection. It is the land of gathering. It is the cradle of all religion. It is a land that will witness the end of this dunya. When Al-Mahdi, from the offspring of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, will come and pray in Masjid al-Aqsa, and then Isa ﷺ will descend from heaven to the white minaret in Syria, walk with a small army. He will arrive Friday morning for Fajr prayer in Masjid al-Aqsa. Some narration says only 2,500 people there lining up for praying, and then the Mahdi will lead prayer, and then all the big events, as probably most of you know, that will start coming one after the other. So this is also the end. This is where the end of this dunya. Now let me just point out something very, very obvious these days, but sometimes maybe we don't think about it. How come these days people are fighting to take over Jerusalem? Why Trump? Why the US? Why the Jewish? Other countries who are supporting. So why are they? So why are they fighting to take over Jerusalem? It is, brother and sister, because of something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, that people of Israel, they have knowledge. They have scholars who they carry knowledge with them. People of Israel, 618 years after Isa alayhi salam, they traveled to live in Medina. To go to Medina. Why would they leave Jerusalem? Why would they leave as they call it, the land of honey and milk, and go to the desert? Because they knew that the Prophet is coming. They knew that it's about to happen. So they migrated. And also, some narration says that they even named their sons Ahmad, not Muhammad, not Mustafa, Ahmad, because they were hoping this prophet would be from their offspring. So they went and they traveled and they lived in the desert and lived and moved and left, abandoned the land of honey and milk, as they call it. Why would they do that? With knowledge to know that this prophet is coming. And in fact, they taught people of Medina that this prophet is coming. And they taught even Salman al-Farisi when he left Iran, Persia, and he traveled until he got to Medina. Of course, he lived with the first priest and second priest and third priest and fourth priest, and then the last he said, I don't see anyone that's worshiping following the message of Jesus alayhi salam, so you travel to Medina, you will see a prophet. And when he went, he worked for a Jewish family. He was picking dates for them, and he heard them talking about the description of this prophet that he was taught by the priest. So he dropped the dates, and they said, "You stupid, what you're doing? You dropped the dates on our head." So he left them and he took some dates and went to the Prophet ﷺ. And probably most of you know this story where he came close Prophet and he said, "This is a gift from me." Prophet ﷺ took it and gave it to the companions. And then he came back and he said, "This is, he said, this is a sadaqah." And then he gave it to the companions. And then he came back and he said, "This is a gift." And the Prophet Muhammad did eat the dates. Because they do not eat sadaqah. They do not eat sadaqah. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, with all humbleness, he took the cup of his shirt and he showed him the seal. And he said, "Is this what you're looking for?" And he hugged him and kissed the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "Indeed, yes. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." So he was taught those things, but he heard it also from the people who were anticipating Prophet Muhammad. So why did they leave? Because they knew that something about to happen. And now it is the same thing. They knew. Unfortunately, so many Muslims, they do not know the value of Baitul Maqdis. And they know very little about it. But yet they know. They're actually fighting the whole world to take over this over Jerusalem. So this is a quick, I would say, introduction that for you to know that this land, it has a lot of meaning. This land, it has a lot. This land, it means a lot. This land, it means for Muslims also a lot. So let me take you for a bit to take you to some important events that happen. And especially when we say when you travel, and you travel from UK, some travel from South Africa, some from Mauritius. Well, what's so significant about it? It is actually, it is a land that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave barakah. Now barakah, when we say barakah, it's a blessed land. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-Ard al-Mubarakah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives barakah to something, you know how these days we say, no barakah in the time, no barakah in the food, no barakah in the money. This is the barakah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-Ard al-Ladhi barakna fiha, Al-Ard al-Mubarakah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put all the barakah in Masjid al-Aqsa. And then the barakah start coming out of the Masjid al-Aqsa. Prophet Muhammad said, the surrounding, وَأَكْنَافُ بَيْتِ الْمَقْدِسِ, the surrounding of Bayt al-Maqdis. This is how the barakah even came from Masjid al-Aqsa. So now, when you made this trip, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designated a special trip, just like you put a trip to come to pray in Masjid al-Aqsa. For whatever reason, I myself, I say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did choose you, and for anyone who come and visit and pray in Masjid al-Aqsa, for whatever reason it is, there was a very obvious reason for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Gabriel and gave the glad tidings, gave him the good news to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Oh Muhammad, you are about to travel to a special place. Prophet Muhammad, the same year, he lost his wife Khadijah. He lost his uncle, the one who gave him protection. He lost his own people, Quraysh. They made a sanction and they kicked him out. He lived in the mountains. And he went to Ta'if to seek some help. His family from his mother's side, they stoned him. So he came back to his people, had nothing. So people of Quraysh came back and they said, "Oh Muhammad, where is this Allah? Where is this Allah that you're speaking about? He forsaken you." And the Quran says, "Ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala." Oh Muhammad, we did not forsake you. If people, mankind, people close the doors and gates of earth, I will open gates of earth and heaven for you, Muhammad. It is not sufficient just gates of heaven. Till he reached to Sidratul Muntaha, he spoke directly with Allah. Why? Because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was going through a very difficult time, through a calamity, through discomfort. People accused him. People said, Allah forsaken you. He lost everything. He lost his protection. He lost his beloved wife. So he needed to be comforted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the special trip, the miraculous journey for him. Rihlatul Isra wal Mi'raj. Now just like you're sitting here, And I'm about to stop because I see all of you are about to sleep. But just like you're sitting here, look back there. Look at Masjid al-Aqsa. When you came from Europe, you came from that area, which is, you came from the north. Look at southeast. This is where Prophet Muhammad, at night time, he came on Buraq. He came sitting on Buraq, as Ibn Kathir said, he came physically, not spiritually. So he came sitting on the Buraq and traveled. Now imagine, sometimes I try to cut it short, but you have to mention those things. Imagine Prophet Muhammad riding on Buraq. When we say Prophet Muhammad, his wife and companions, they were describing him. One of them, or his wife, she said, I looked at his face and I saw the moon. And I looked at the moon and I saw the moon. So I didn't know which was the moon, the light. So I looked back and I saw the face of Prophet Muhammad shining more than the moon. This is still narration by his wife and companions. So imagine that moon, that our beloved Prophet, the leader of mankind, the master of mankind, the master of all prophets, traveling from there, sitting on the Buraq. And imagine another thing, Gabriel with 600 wings, covering the entire atmosphere, traveling with him to escort him to Masjid al-Aqsa. His special advisor. Whatever Muhammad asked, immediately. Anything, ask Muhammad. You want to see Earth from south to north, east to west? Immediately there. Traveling within a second, faster than a second. Now imagine this trip, who designated it? I'm sure whenever the brother worked on your trip, his office and people here and there and travel agencies, and putting this trip together and arranging it. That trip, Allah put it together. So you better know that millions and millions of angels are behind this Buraq, witnessing. Why? Because we bring things together. Where Prophet Muhammad was walking with the tip of his fingers, they asked him, Prophet of Allah, why are you walking on the tip of your fingers? He was doing the janazah of a companion. He said, no space for me to walk, all full with angels. It's just a janazah. Just imagine a trip of the Nigerian about to ascend to heaven. So coming from there, traveling at night, another thing for you to think about, 120,000 prophets anticipating his arrival. You're talking about Adam to Isa alayhi salam. All of them. In the hadith description of Prophet Muhammad, he said, when I landed, I tied the buraq, I put the rope around, and I walked, Gabriel next to me, I looked to my right, I saw Moses, he looked like this and that. I saw Isa, he looked such and such with the prickles on his face, with his hair dripping water. I looked to my left and Idris, and he was describing prophets. Then he said, I looked to my right, and I saw my father Abraham. I looked so much like him. In the hadith, Prophet Muhammad describing. So this is actually happening. Prophet Muhammad والسلام, landing, 120, and another narration, 125,000 prophets waiting to give him the salam, waiting to announce the shahada again as Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah on the gate of heaven. Seal of all prophets, coming to witness a very special event, only on that spot. Only on that spot. The spot where you walked, probably your footstep touched a prophet footstep walking there. Sometimes when I say that, sometimes we walk, we don't think about it. We don't think about it. Think about it. Walk and look around. This is a reality. This is not an illusion. This is not a story to enjoy. Think about it because you feel the harmony, the tranquility. You feel the peace. A brother, he's not sitting here, a brother who came the other day, and he said, he's a young man, and he came the other day and his wife passed and they stopped the interrogation and he came and happened, I was here. He said, what did I do to myself? Why did I come here? I said, what? He said, oh, I'm sorry, I just arrived. My wife, I think she's in the room. And I came and they stopped me for hours and interrogating me. And I didn't want to come here. I said, why? He said, my wife wanted to come. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt you. He didn't know me, to hurt your feeling, but I just don't want to come here. I just, with all what's going on, why would I come to a dangerous place? I said, brother, I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to say anything. I want you to walk with me. He said, oh, where? I said, no, it's a safe place. Alhamdulillah, you're Muslim. Let's walk. We walked up to the lift. He stood here. You can see the tears of his heart and eyes. Changed immediately. So that person, Allah wanted to comfort his heart. He had something. He was going through something. So this trip, it is not a coincidence. This trip is designated also for you, for each one of you. Anyone who comes here, there is a special thing about this place. I'll tell you, and I will try to conclude with this. Brother and sister, you came by your choice. One day you will come here whether you like it or not. If you're still alive by the end of the dunya, this dunya, a big fire from Adan will erupt and start chasing people. Prophet described it as a live man will chase people just with a fire roaring. People start running from all over. That fire will gather everybody, and they will, when they stop, it stops. When they sleep, it sleeps. They'll bring them to Baitul Maqdis, ready for Judgment Day. Alhamdulillah, you came on your choice. You came, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will give you the ajr of hadith of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that you go back home as a newborn person. You go back home feeling the blessed, the barakah of this land. You go back home and you carry a message, come and pray. Brother and sister, Masjid al-Aqsa like an ill house. When a brother or sister are ill, we go and visit them. In the hadith, different hadith, it says where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say to his servant on Judgment Day, why you didn't come and visit me? Allah, in this dunya? Yes. Why you didn't? I didn't know you were there, Allah. Yes. I was next to your brother or sister, they were sick. You did not come and visit me in dunya. Visiting a sick and ill person, visiting Allah. So Masjid al-Aqsa, yes, ill. Abandoned. This house that takes more than 500,000 persons to pray. Go there and see how it's empty. Absolutely empty. One day, and I'll finish with this, Ghazali, one of the Imams of Ghazali, he wrote, I was walking around the courtyard of Masjid al-Aqsa, and I counted, I only saw 386 scholars giving lessons, and I declared and said, knowledge about to disappear from Baitul Maqdis. How many we have now? Absolutely none. So when you go back home, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the ajr for every pound, or shekel, dollar, franc, whatever money you have spent to give you ajr coming here to Masjid al-Aqsa, seeking to pray in Masjid al-Aqsa. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you go back home safely, and whatever interrogation that you went through or others went through, this is more ajr for you. Think about it. More ajr with more hardship. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. السلام عليكم.